But anyway,
So,
but
but anyway.
but that wasn't my topic for today. I had
Oh,
an
mine either.
interesting aha moment. Oh, do you have a
Okay.
topic too? Do
Well,
we want to do
maybe
battle
we
of the
can do
topics?
battle of the topics.
Battle of the topics? That'll be great.
Let's do it. Let's do it.
That'll be
Okay, I'm gonna
great.
do it. Welcome to Pros Talking Prose, everybody. This is where you're gonna get to talk with industry professionals, publishing and writing professionals, where we can talk about like the real life and what's really going on in the world of publishing and writing. And that's what you're going to get from Troy and I. And today, Troy and I, we had a mishap with the scheduling, so we're going to have to change what we were actually going to do today to another day, but that's okay. That just throws Troy and I into this conundrum. And I think what we've just decided we're going to do is we're going to have a battle of topics, because I've been like churning an idea all day long, and apparently so is he. So we'll see how far this goes, but hopefully we don't get too far into the weeds, but and hopefully we can keep this fun and light. But I'm excited to hear what Troy, and because I have not yet heard what his is and he hasn't heard what mine is.
Yeah, it's gonna be funny if they're the same thing, but
It would be
yeah,
weird. It would be really weird.
it'd be so weird. So weird. So everybody just know if that
Just
happens, this
if
is
that
not
happens,
planned.
this is not, yeah,
We did not preload this with any kind of like
no,
craziness. But
this is
yeah.
like, okay. All right. So Troy, your first topic.
Okay. So this is the simplest thing. I figured it out. I know what the entire problem with modern publishing and the whole
Oh,
AI and everything. I figured the whole thing out.
you're gonna
All
simplify
of it
this into one thing.
into one thing.
Oh, oh
What's
no.
yours?
That wasn't my thing. Go, but I want to hear you. I like, honestly. Okay, well, my topic, I'll just tell you, is it's more of a rant. It's more focused on freedom of speech, because I feel like I had just watched something on Ricky Gervais this morning, and I was like thinking about how cancel culture has tried so hard to cancel him, and I was thinking about the beauty of someone like Ricky Gervais. And I had a really cool experience with Patrick Warburton this weekend, and so I kind of wanted to talk about how these kinds of experiences kind of solidify what we're doing and kind of the reason why we do what we do. So maybe we'll end with
Okay.
that feel good
I
fuzzy at the end, and we'll
I
start
think
with your
there's some
problem.
I think there's some overlap.
Oh
I think
no,
there's
no
some
way.
overlap here.
Okay.
Yes, there is, because because I have fallen into this trap, but
Oh
I
dear.
finished a book this weekend.
Okay,
This
you
weekend,
finished.
sometime this last weekend, I finished a
Okay.
book, right?
Okay.
And started another story that I really need to write as far as from a commercial standpoint. I need to get it done fairly quickly, right? For a project that Vince and I are working on together, right? So I need to get it done fairly quickly. But like, as far as the other thing is, as far as personally, like this story has been bugging the crap out of me for like 2 weeks. Like, I'm in the middle of finishing another book. I'm doing these edits, doing all this stuff. And I'm like, but what I really want to do right now is write that story. So I was able to start that story this weekend. And I thought about it for a minute, and I'm like, when I first started out doing this, like, how did I do things so quick? And how was I so focused on stuff? Right. And the answer is actually really simple. And it also answers some of the questions about AI that we talked about last week, and about copyright and all of that stuff. And here's the simple answer, is that we have, as an industry, we put on the commercial writer hat too soon.
Ooh,
And
good
we've
call.
taken the art out of the writing process. because the reason that you'd want to use AI, and the reason I like using AI like as an editing tool and things like that, is the speed of creation of something so I can get it out in the world and make it commercial, something I can sell, right? But the problem is, I always tell authors that you can be as artsy as you want while you're writing your draft, but when you're done, this becomes a product we need to package and sell, right? So you have to put on the commercial hat if you want to do this for a living. The problem is, what we've started doing is putting the commercial hat on during the drafting process. And we've lost the joy of creating the art, which sometimes takes a longer than we necessarily want it to. Sometimes it's harder than we actually want it to be, right? Because it does require some blood, sweat, and tears sometimes to write your own things rather than editing machine generated text, for example, or whatever, which and part of this for me was me remembering that the reason I started writing in the first place is because of the joy of creation, the joy of drafting. So I don't want AI to write that draft for me. Like, I really enjoyed, I'm playing with the new editing software, and I really enjoyed the process of editing with that software and having some AI elements in there so I could ask questions and things like that. But I don't want AI involved in the drafting process, at least my drafting process, because, and if I do, it's purely for commercial reasons and it's not for any artistic reasons. Well, I really don't want to write for just commercial reasons, because this is a really crappy, and I often say this is a really crappy way to make a living. You have to work really hard to make a living writing. There's so many things you can do that are easier. So if you love writing and want to make a living writing, then the writing is central to that. And that's an art, right? That's an art. It's a process that there's really no great shortcuts for. They're
I
really
think
just that humanity involved in that is everything to
I
that
think you've
process.
really hit this on the nose here. You're right. And we've talked about this. We talked about this a little bit. We touched on this a little bit when we talked to Johnny Truant, and we've talked about the joy of writing and everything with some of our other guests and with each other several times. But one of the things that I think you're right about specifically is that, especially from somebody like me who loves to talk the author business, right? Like that's my
For
wheelhouse.
sure.
But you're right. I think that if people are putting that hat on too soon, they do themselves a disservice. And I think you're right very much. One of my favorite things that happened to me this last week, I had it was a really tough week. There's a lot going on in my personal life as well as in our business life. We've got, I feel like I'm juggling so many cats right now. And there was a day that I was booked solid for the day. My whole day was calendared out. And and for the most part, I thought most of them were new clients. I thought like I was doing new client interviews, which usually is sometimes and somewhat disappointing at times, because again, you're talking to people who have a kind of a misconstrued idea about their project, or they have these unrealistic goals. And so I feel like sometimes I'm yanking the rug out from underneath people. I'm also doing a lot of education. Like, of course, I'm always talking and talking and talking about the same thing over and over again, which is, how do you want to publish your book? Well, what do you mean? And then them understanding what those different choices are and how they actually affect the way that they approach the project. And of course, again, putting on that hat, right? But then my very first client, the appointment, I'm getting ready for the day and I click start the meeting. And it is one of my clients that I've already edited the book for. We've done a copy. We just finished a copy edit. And this is the second time I've read his book now. So I know his characters pretty well. And when I saw his face, I was just like, it was like I wanted to cry. I was like, yes. And I was like cheering, and I was like, yeah. And he looked at me and he's like, what? And I'm like, you have just made my whole day, because I now get to sit and talk book. Like I get to talk about your characters. I get to dig into plot. I get to dig into story. We get to like this was a post-edit consultation, meaning I got to sit there and go, oh my gosh, I loved how you did this in chapter 8. And I loved how the character did this. And have you thought about maybe approaching it this way? And we need to clean up this area. But what do you think about this idea? It was like one of those kinds of appointments. And it was just, it made the whole day like so happy because I
Makes
got to
it better.
start with the creative, like that creative, the creative juices were flowing. And if he had stopped, like we're still in the drafting phase, like we're in revision phase with this guy. If we had stopped talking about revision in that moment and I started saying, okay, well, have you thought about going and getting your ISBNs yet? Have you done this and this and this? It would have taken the fun and sucked the creative juices that we were feeling out of that meeting. And it wasn't the time. We were revising and we need to get the story the way he needs it to be. And it wasn't so that it could be commercially successful. It's so that it could work, and it was
right. So it could just work for him before you talk about it being commercially successful. And Johnny was one of the first people I thought of when I was contemplating this. But really, I was contemplating some of my other clients who I see, and even myself, who I have seen at various times go, okay, this has to sell. And then I put my hands on the keyboard. And it's just the wrong order. Like it's the wrong order. And what it does is it creates a different kind of pressure for you than creative pressure. And I don't think it's healthy. Like, I don't think it's good because it's not good for the art, right? It's not good for the art of things. And so when we have put on that hat too early, and it's not that you shouldn't put on that hat at all.
Oh, it's not that. Listen, yeah, we're not saying that.
If you want to do this for a living,
you have to put the hat on at some point.
You have to put the commercial hat on. And the other thing is, like, for me, when you were talking about, like, I find the commercial side fun as well. There is some fun to be had in the commercial side of things. But part of what inspired this is as I start to work with, like, different AI for completing mundane tasks, repetitive tasks that you do every day. I'm like, AI could be managing my inbox while I am drinking coffee and thinking about the next plot point, which is what I want to do.
Yeah.
Now, and again, listen, I just want to pause this whole thing because I've been hit so many times over the last few weeks.
Oh my gosh.
I'm not opposed to you using AI to draft your book if that's what you want to do, need to do. If you have a disability and AI allows you to draft your book,
whatever reason.
Amazing. Whatever reason that you want to use AI for it, that is fine. What I'm talking about is for me personally. But what also made me think of it is, after our podcast that we did with the copyright lawyer, I ran across a copyright lawyer online who was talking about AI music.
Oh, yeah.
And I was absolutely fascinated by it because the terms of service, because of the nature of music. So if you don't know, and I'm learning piano again, so I'm being reminded of this, is that most songs are made up of 4 to 6 chords.
Yeah.
That's it. That's most of what we use for most pop music. If you learn those 4 chords and learn to play them differently, you can play almost any song.
Yep, that's true.
And I mean,
multiple artists have actually even talked about it too, because Ed Sheeran has done like reels on this. Like it's
the whole thing. And we always joke about it. We would always joke about it when I was in the church world about the church worship band. That was a great place to get some experience as a musician.
I always tell my husband,
you only have to know 4 chords.
My husband,
because the bass is going to be muted anyway.
My husband loves the blues. On Sunday mornings, we get ready for church, or we're doing whatever we're doing that morning to the blues. And I always give him crap about it because I'm like, dude, it's the same 5 riffs, the same
it's the
ones
same 5 notes
for every single
and I mean, here's the thing though, we recognize that pattern as humans, right? We recognize that as music, all that kind of stuff, which is why AI can create music. However, the biggest problem is, first of all, what's missing from it is the humanity and the soul of the music, which is why more and more people are going back to vinyl and stuff like that, because they're tired of lossless sanitized Dolby sound and they want the real sound, right? So they're
Right.
buying cassette tapes, CDs, vinyl, whatever
Right.
the case may be. But the other aspect of it is that the interesting thing in like Suno's terms of service is they basically warrant that if you and another person put in similar type prompts, you may get
The
similar
same
outputs.
song.
And what
Interesting.
it also means, the other dangerous part of it is that when you upload lyrics, even if they are your own lyrics, by uploading lyrics and allowing Suno to create a song for you, they can create derivative works without your permission because
Oh
you
my
do not own
gosh.
the copyright to any of it. And that includes the lyrics that you uploaded.
That's terrifying, actually.
So if you are a songwriter, first of all, just understand that nothing that you pull out of Suno first of all, they have no guarantee of originality. So if they ripped off somebody else's song in the process, which is highly likely because of progression of chords,
You just have to
right?
know that there's no
And the chords that you
guarantee.
use.
There's
So
no
there's no
guarantee of
guarantee.
there's no guarantee of originality with any AI system, you guys. There's none.
Right.
They're never going to give you that
And
guarantee.
and this is why this is why you can't copyright music out of that, because you cannot be 100% sure that it is original. And if you go to copyright it and it does riff off somebody else's music and they can prove that they created it first, Suno is not responsible for your lawyer's fees, for any lawsuit or anything else.
Guys,
By
music.
clicking on their site and using that thing, you become 100% responsible for assuring that your song is original.
I want you to know something. We were teasing each other about this the other day about how, like, who's gonna, because I mean, this is the argument, right? Like, we have so many people on our backs right now about
Yeah.
AI, and especially after last week's podcast. But like, I was laughing because we were joking, and I said, here's the thing, and just piggyback on Bradley's little, it's all academic till someone gets sued. The effort to sue someone is so ridiculously laborious and dumb, but 90% of you, 99% of you who file a copyright are never going to litigate. And I'll tell you why. Because what it requires you to do is to sit there and like hunt the internet for anybody who might be using, any tiny bit. So Troy and I were like, we were talking about how like nobody's going to do this, right? But here's the thing about songs and poetry. They do.
Right.
They do. And so if you touch anybody's songs or poetry and you put them in a book or anything, like copy anything, these people will come for you. And so I'm saying it's one thing to say, oh, I'm going to steal somebody's book and I'm going to reprint it and, do my thing. That's one thing. It is something completely different when you touch music and poetry. So I'm going to just caution you right here. If you're going to use AI to write anything and they can't guarantee it, oh, for the love of all that's good and holy, please make sure your human intervention is thick in there.
Music and art, both. You need to, if you get an image out of AI and it even resembles somebody else's kind of art,
somebody's art
you
style,
need to reverse Google search it and make sure that you are in the clear before you put that anywhere. This is one of the reasons, like Stacey and I were talking earlier about taking real images like stock photos and then editing them with AI. And part of the reason that I wanted to do that was to ensure that I'm not getting a duplicate of somebody else's thing and that I own that image, that it's human created.
Yeah.
So I can copyright it.
Yeah, you can copyright it when you buy the rights to use it. So that's
I mean, there's all kinds of little idiosyncrasies and stuff in the law that we can't even cover because we're not attorneys. And I'm not going to bring on a song attorney and a video
but if you have questions,
attorney.
Call Bradley Fraser.
Yeah, if you have questions, call Bradley Fraser.
Bradley
Fraser. If he can't answer it for you,
he'll know somebody.
He will know someone who can, right? But when it comes to like songs and video and art, especially those things created by AI, because Stacey's absolutely right. Like when you use songs, if you use songs in a book, right? Because you want a little bit of the song in the chapter head,
Don't
you get
even
like two
touch it.
lines. Like, and if you anything beyond that is fair use, and you better credit that artist. If you do not, you will get hammered so fast
I'll tell
and
you
get a cease and
something.
desist so fast that you'll have to change every one of your books that's on the market. And if you have any of them printed, you'll have to scrap them and have them reprinted. You get it's a few lines for fair use. There's an exact character count. Go find it and don't violate
I
it
will tell you
because
one thing
you will
though.
be in trouble.
As an editor, I don't even touch it with a 10-foot pole. And so if an author tells me they want to
Mm-hmm.
put song lyrics in their books, I tell them no. And the reason is because it is so safeguarded. And I always tell my authors, there's a way for you to write this feeling that you're trying to envelop here without stealing those people's words. And the way to do it is to
Mm-hmm.
instead say they were listening to this song and and say the title and then write the feelings.
Mm-hmm.
Do not touch those lyrics. Do not touch them
Yeah.
unless you're writing them, like you said, as like, I mean, sometimes you can use them in an epigraph as like a theme, but Troy's right. It's like it's a minuscule amount of fair use that you're allowed on those things.
Well,
And
and
I'm
also,
so careful with those.
let me tell you from experience, if you ask an artist to use their words
Yeah.
in something, 99% of the time,
They'll say,
they will
yeah.
say yes. I used a song from an artist I knew in Texas, but I wanted to make sure I had permission for a
Mm-hmm.
documentary that I helped to produce for a museum up north.
Mm-hmm.
And people were like, that is a great song that fits perfectly there. How did you get permission to use that? I go,
I
I
asked.
called the musician who put me in touch with his agent who was happy to have his song credited in a documentary
I even had
because
one
it's
of
a
my
certain
clients.
amount of exposure. So
Yeah.
just contact them
I had
beforehand. This is not a case of asking forgiveness rather than permission because
no,
the
you asked
forgiveness will
permission.
not come.
I will
Okay,
tell
it
you,
won't
like
come.
I had one client, she wanted to quote some quite a bit of Laura Ingalls' book. And of course, Laura
Oh,
Ingalls is deceased. So she reached out to the estate and she got permission. The estate said, "Oh yeah,
hmm,
certainly, we're flattered that you wouldn't, but she had
yeah,
to, she got the requested permission that she needed to be able to use that word. It is important that you are very careful, very,
hmm.
very careful about
Well,
other people's work. And here's the thing. Here's my period on this. This is the exclamation point period. If I were ever to use extra punctuation, this is my point. Here we go. It is that you are a creative in a creative industry. And wouldn't you want the same respect for the work that you're creating that you would be granting to other people in the same line of work? You have to think about the fact that, I used to, there was a joke going around TikTok for a while. They were saying it was a song that people were singing. It costs that much because it takes me freaking hours,
yeah,
like that song. Um, it's true, right? We know how much effort goes into creative works. We pay artists for their work because they put that time and effort and their artistic spin on it, and you want that. I have a piece of art. I know you have art in your office. I have a piece of art in
hmm,
my office, from this. He's done some children's books too. They're beautiful, and this particular piece really speaks to me, and I love it. And I paid the few $100s for the print because I wanted to pay the artist like it was from, it was from a reputable channel, and I
hmm.
knew it was going to pay the artist. And because I wanted that piece in my office, like I wanted it. And so I feel
Right.
like we should give each other that respect. Like don't steal stuff.
Yes.
Don't steal stuff because you wouldn't want it to be stolen from you. Like,
Right. Because here's the thing about art, and it's comes back to our original topic. But the thing about art
Mhm.
is, first of all, the time and the energy and the emotion that
Mhm.
went into that art. And art that truly speaks to you that way, that they did not put on the commercial hat
No,
before they finished the project or finished the painting or whatever it is that they were working on. Because if you put on that commercial hat too soon, you lose a portion of the art most of the time
most of the time.
because
Mhm.
you're thinking about the wrong things when you are writing. When you're writing the draft, you should not be thinking about, will this sell? You should be thinking about, how will this emotionally impact my reader?
You can
How
worry
will this
about how
change
it
them?
sells after.
Yes,
After.
after, after.
We'll craft a target audience after. We'll find out who it's
Hmm.
made for after. Um
Yeah.
it's that should be your afterthought. Like Troy said, I
Right.
think
And
that
if
that's
you're
very
if you're
important.
writing a series, it's really important that you step out of that commercial mode. And I think this is why second books in a series a lot of times are really tough
I think that's why they
to
kind of
write.
flop,
First of
huh?
all, because if you have a trilogy, that is the muddy middle of the series.
Right.
Let's just be real about the craft of writing for just a second. But also, on top of that, I think that you're thinking the first one of these sold, which is why I'm writing a second one of these. So, will the second one sell, instead of writing it purely for the fact that there is more story in this world to tell and you need to tell it and get it out
Right.
there and get it drafted? That the main thing that's the struggle when you even risk using someone else's work, or when you use other methods to draft, the danger is that you never find the art in it and you are just crafting a commercial product. Okay, that one's just really tough, right? We are not that's not what we should be doing. We are artists who should be creating art and writing that causes people to think, causes them to feel, inspires those emotions in them, all of those things, right?
Yeah.
So those are the things that we should be doing.
I
So,
think this
you know,
segues perfectly into what I was thinking to cover today. Like, you're right. I think our topics kind
it
of do
does.
segue nice. So we're about halfway through today, and so I feel like this is a nice transition. You just kind of led right
It
into it,
is.
because
Yes.
here's the thing about Ricky Gervais. As polarizing as this man is, I will say this: the guy literally just says it like it is, and
Right.
pulls no punches. And the reason I think that people find him so difficult to swallow is because in an age right now where we're constantly trying to our prevent people from getting hurt, what we're doing is we're preventing topics from being broached, right? We're preventing
Hmm.
difficult things from being discussed, and those difficult things need to be discussed because that's how we advance in this society, and that's how we come to the town square and we make things better, right? And
Hmm.
if you're constantly just caving to things that are difficult to talk about,
Yeah.
you end up with children who are unruly. You know what I mean? Like, right? Like,
Well,
ultimately. But
the problem is you you're sanitizing fiction.
right.
We grow as people, we grow through painful experiences more
And
so than we do
conflict.
successful
Conflict.
experiences. Right,
Conflict. And
conflict,
conflict
because that's what makes
makes us
story,
better. It makes stories
right? It
better.
makes us
Yeah.
stronger. Like,
Mm-hmm.
you do not get a good workout by going to the gym and your trainer comes up to you and goes, "Oh, you look a little tired today. You need a hug?" And you're like, "Oh yeah, man, a hug would feel great." And you guys hug it out, and then you leave the gym
Uh, I mean, a
without the
good
conflict in the workout, right? A good trainer will push you until you feel pain. A good editor will push you until you feel pain because that will make your fiction stronger.
A couple illustrations for this. I want you guys to think about these
Mhm.
things. My dad, I love him to pieces. He's getting older and he's getting more frail in his older age. And one of the things that's happening is he's falling more. Like, and it's kind of scary because when you're older and you fall, things break, right? And
Yes.
and anyway, it's kind of a little terrifying. So my mom is talking about like putting him in physical therapy so that he can start doing some balance training and stuff. Well, he's kind of become immobile the older he's gotten because he just sits in front of the computer and watches, the news, and it's really depressing. And honestly, I hate everything about this. But the other day I was at Costco and I saw these, like, those pillow compression kind of things that you can plug in, and like they put them in on you in the
Mhm.
hospital to prevent you from having blood clots. Like they're
Oh yeah, yeah.
constantly moving.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the
Yeah. Well,
compression things. Yeah, yeah,
right.
yeah.
Like they're like pillowy air things that, like, yeah. Anyway, so I put them on him last night. I got them for him and I took him over to his house at like 10 o'clock at night and put them on his legs. I'm like, Dad, you have to wear these. And I put them on and they were like squeezing his legs and he was like, ow, 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 these hurt. And I was like, Dad, I love you. Stop being a baby. like made him sit through 10 minutes of it. And then
Mhm.
I let him rest for about 15 minutes. And then we turned it back on and we did it again. And the second time around, he goes, oh, this feels really good. And I'm like, yeah. I'm like, Dad, see what it's doing is it's telling your body to send blood to those extremities. He has diabetes. So of course,
Yeah,
circulation is
yeah.
always a problem for diabetes. So anyway, I was like, see, I was like, I want you to do this twice a day in the evening before you go to bed. And then I want you to get up and I want you to go for a walk every day. Like you need that conflict. And he's like, it hurts. And I'm like, I know, hurt is good.
Yeah.
Same kind of story here is like, I just published a book for an amazing author who I love her to death. This is the second book we've done together. And today was like the day where we actually just put the period on the project. And it's such a relief. But anyway, in that book, she tells the story about Biosphere 2. And Biosphere 2, if you don't know, is a big environmentally controlled laboratory where they do these real world simulations for, like, agriculture and things like that, right? And it's just an amazing place. But one of the things that they were noticing is that the trees were really thriving, but they were falling over, because in their perfect environment, they didn't have wind. And the wind
Mhm.
was preventing the trees from being strong enough to hold themselves up. And what's
Mhm.
amazing about that is that's a really good lesson, right? That we need conflict to be strong and to be able to thrive. And in our environment, in our world of word exchanges, when we are sharing stories, we're sharing stories about characters who are going through it. Like, this is fiction and nonfiction, right? We're sharing stories to help people confront and overcome challenges and conflict. But in that confrontation, there's always this little bit of a painful transition that happens with the
Mhm.
character and with us. And it's quite interesting to see those people that actually make the transition. With characters, we're looking for it, right? We're constantly, like, as
Mhm.
editors, we're going, where is the character arc happening? Like, when is that
Where does the
midpoint?
change
Where's
happen?
that flip happening? And we're asking our writers to find that and make that happen. With nonfiction, it's the same thing. You're trying to get your readers to go through that flip and that change. That is sometimes very painful for us to do, but it's also something that is necessary for us to become better people, right? We can't be the same
Right.
people and go through this life the same. Ricky
Well,
Gervais,
yeah.
I think that's his thing, right? Like, he's just asking us to look at ourselves in the mirror and go, look at this truth. Do you want that to be that truth, or do you want it to be different? And he's making it very
Right.
ugly and almost shocking, but it's the same thing. It's that freedom to say those words, to be able to make us face those ugly parts about our society, right?
Right.
That's what we should be doing as
Well,
artists
yeah,
and writers.
it's the exact same thing that like George Carlin did, right? Like if
Yeah.
you can listen to a George Carlin routine
Without being
and
offended.
not be offended, you don't have any opinions at all.
Right.
None.
Right.
Because he offends everybody. Like it's
Everybody.
what I tell, I'm an equal opportunity offender. If I didn't offend you yet in my books, don't worry. I'll get to you at
Just
some point. There'll be
read something
something
else.
that offends you, right? But I mean, the part of the point of that is like, so we've done ourselves, and you and I have talked about this before as well,
Mhm.
but we've done ourselves an extreme disservice by saying that we should not talk about politics and religion with our family and in certain circles.
Mhm.
Because the problem is that weird uncle with the conspiracy theories has a reason he believes them,
Right.
right? And there could be grains of truth in there from time to time. Now, he might be a certifiable nut job. You probably have at least one in your family. And if you don't, you're the one. But anyway, you just haven't discovered it yet, right?
Oh, yeah. Shout
but
out to my
but I
friend
mean,
Todd. I love you, babe.
yeah, I
Anyway.
mean, but you know what I mean? These things are like, okay, but the fact is, first of all, that he has the freedom to say them. Second of all, he is never going to learn, and you are never going to learn if the two of you never have a discussion.
Or a civil
Like, or a
conversation. You can have a
conversation, a
civil
civil
conversation.
conversation. Like at the end, I can have a civil conversation with you about religion. And at the
Mhm.
end of that conversation, we can still like each other and be civil to each other, even if we
If we
don't
disagree.
agree.
Yeah.
Because, like, I look at Stacey and I, okay, we have very differing views on
Mhm.
religion to an extent. But
Mhm.
when
To
we
a certain
boil
extent.
them
Not,
down,
yeah. When we boil
when
them
we
down, we're the
boil them
same
down in a
person.
conversation, they're actually very similar, first of all.
Mhm.
And the second thing is, I know that Stacey is not going to convert me to certain things in her opinion, and I'm not going to convert her to certain things in my opinion. And it's okay.
It doesn't matter.
Nobody needs to be converted because the truth is, on some foundational things, we agree.
We
And if we can find that center ground where we agree,
mhm.
do you know how valuable that is to be able to just have a discussion with someone? It's the exact same thing politically. What we see in the news is the extremes on both sides. Why?
Always.
Well, because that's
Because it
what makes
causes
good
clicks.
headlines. That's what
Right.
people click on. But there was an age of journalism that some of us are old enough to have been a part of,
And
where
remember,
the actual idea was to be unbiased and to look for the truth, regardless of which party the person belonged to, regardless of whatever their political affiliation was. We just wanted to know what was really happening and what the
right.
truth was,
Right.
right? And the job of a journalist was to be as unbiased as possible,
Right.
right? That was their job.
There was actually when I was studying
Okay, hang on.
journalism. Oh, what?
One pause, just 1 second. McLean is barking and acting super weird. So I'm going to go figure out what the hell is
Do
going
you
on
have
with
a
this dog.
robber? Grab your gun.
I don't think so, but he's being like weirder than normal. So
Well, then
I
I'm
will
going to
be
take a pee
right back.
break while you're doing
Sydney,
that.
cut this out. Okay.
Okay. Okay, so you weren't killed.
No, I was not killed. He was just going crazy because he was hungry and it was late for him eating, but he was literally like whining and almost barking out there. And I'm like, what is like that normally, like when we're doing our thing, he'll just leave me alone until I'm done, or I can get him to calm down, but I couldn't get him to calm down.
Oh,
So I'm like, I
okay. Well,
literally
is
just had to go
McLean
feed
now?
him.
McLean's okay now.
Yeah, he's
Okay.
fine now. Just,
Good.
anyway.
Okay, so we'll start
So
back up. So anyway, so what
yeah,
we were saying is just that people like I think that when people listen to people, well, when we're writing, we shouldn't shy away from these topics. Like you said, they're things that we should discuss, and they're things that make us better people. And so like that was my main thing. I went to a comedy show this last weekend, and we were listed like Patrick Warburton, by the way,
Mhm.
The guy is funny, but he's also very raunchy. And I'm glad that it was a late night show. The show started at 10 o'clock. Way
Oh
past my
yeah, that's why you were so tired that
I
morning.
was
Yeah, yeah.
so past my bedtime. So but we went and it was fun. And my best friend, I love her. I don't think she got the show that she expected. But um one of the things that she I think didn't fail to do is she failed to go and like vet the show before we left. Like before, she didn't
Mhm.
watch any of Patrick's stuff beforehand to see like where his tone would be. And that I guess would be my word of caution is very much like when you're writing something, if you're wearing that hat of creativity, right? And you're writing that thing, which is what we're encouraging you to do, write that thing, write what you feel is important for you to write. Then when you put the commercial hat on, work and consult with a professional like myself or Troy, and we're telling you, okay, this fits in this target audience. Um, that's when you can shape that piece of work to fit or to make changes if you need to get into a different audience that maybe you wanted to aim for. But the point of it is that if you create a work that fits in a specific audience, you're going to be um hitting the mark and you won't be as disappointing to that audience. You'll make sure that you'll get the right
Right.
reviews. Like people will know what to expect. Unlike my friend who went to a comic show that she didn't
Right.
get what she was wanting, and it was because she failed to do her homework. But that doesn't mean that Patrick failed to do his. He was doing a show
Right.
for a 10 o'clock audience. Like
Well, yeah,
he
he was
knew what
doing
he
a
was
late
doing.
night show, which is often just the more adult
Just
show.
the adults.
So, but I mean, part of this is like we're talking about at the beginning, in the drafting process, have your artist hat on and write to your heart's content.
Right.
If that means you have cuss words throughout your manuscript, that's fine. But
That's
if you're
fine.
writing Regency romance, we may have to edit some of those out,
Right.
because of
Right.
what your audience expects, but that's perfectly okay. But
Mm-hmm.
don't try to censor yourself and fix your prose during
Yeah,
the drafting
before.
process. And also understand that, like, politically correct and sanitized prose has its place,
Yes, it does.
right? It
Mm-hmm.
absolutely has its place. And trigger warnings and all that are things that have their place. But I'm
Right.
telling you right now that, like, if you read noir and dark thrillers, first of all, don't expect trigger warnings, but expect things that you probably wanted a trigger warning for. Because
Right.
that's the type of fiction that it is. So know the fiction that you're getting going in. Know what you're doing going into this process, because the simple fact of the matter is that we that different audiences have different expectations for things and we need to meet them, right?
Mhm.
So that not every type of fiction has to be 100% politically correct. Not every type of fiction has to have a representation of every type of
Oh,
character in it,
please don't do
because
that.
it's just not practical. Please don't put token characters in there.
Yeah.
It That irks me worse than just you having some honest writing, right? The obligation to do this is not there. That is non-existent. There are groups of readers who do not expect you to do that. It depends on the type of fiction you're writing and the genre that you're in. But we're not going to be concerned about that when we're in the drafting process.
Right.
If all of a sudden a dragon appears in your thriller in the drafting process, we're going to know what to do with that later,
Mm-hmm.
right? We know what to do with that later, but don't kill the dragon immediately or remove it immediately without first letting it lead where it's going to lead in the story, because
Right.
that's the artist part and the writing part of writing. That's the part that we do for fun, to explore the world and to see what happens and to see what's next. So again, that's the biggest thing, is don't put on that commercial hat too soon. If you put that
Mm-hmm.
on before you start writing, you will probably have an unsuccessful writing experience. as far as on the writing side and likely on the business side as well.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
no.
I will also add this little caveat, like, and this is the thing. When you're part of the censorship of this whole thing too, like it kind of feeds into the censorship of this. Like the thing is, this is when I was growing up. I'm going to start with this. When I was growing up, we would go to the public library, and there was a section that the kids were not allowed to go. Like that was it was like the restricted section in Harry Potter, right? Like the kids weren't. There was usually a librarian that was stationed there, and it was like you needed special permission or you needed to go in there with an adult if you were going to go into that section at all. But most of the time, kids were you just knew to stay out of it, right? It didn't mean that those books weren't there. The books were there. They didn't take the books out of the library. They were there. The librarians were just careful to make sure that the right readers were in that section, right? That is something that we need to, like, I guess, remember when we're writing and when we're sharing and when we're trying to impose our own opinions on things, is that the beautiful thing about this country in particular is that we in this country have the right to free speech, right? Like that is our right. And Troy and I have addressed this before. You have the right to free speech. It doesn't necessarily mean you have the right to be free of consequences of exercising that right.
Right.
But you do have the right. So, the consequences could still come. When you write a book, don't be afraid to be criticized for the words that you're writing, because they're probably going to be there. You're probably going to get criticized, especially if you're broaching some of these more touchy subjects. It's okay. And like Ricky Gervais in his approach, and George Carlin, and even Robin Williams, the most beloved of all comics, he skirted on these little taboo topics a lot. Don't be afraid to do that, because again, what you're trying to do as an artist is help our society learn and grow, and especially learn to empathize with different perspectives. Don't be afraid to be put in the restricted section, but at the same time, don't be afraid, or don't try to put other people or stop them from being able to say what they have to say because it conflicts with what you have to say. And I guess that's my most important message here today. And that's why I get really kind of hung up on this. My whole reason for doing what I do, and the reason I got into this business in the first place, was because, and I love my parents, they did the best they could do, but I did grow up with this idea and this feeling that I didn't have a voice. What I had to say and what I had to do in this lifetime was wrong. Like I was wrong, and I should just, and at one point I remember there was, and my mom would probably deny that this happened, but it is a core memory. I remember one time having an emotional breakdown and telling her that the way I felt, and I remember her telling me, well, you feel wrong. What you're feeling is wrong. And it took a very long time. Probably up until
and lots of therapy. Lots of therapy.
Well, I'm wearing my I haven't gone to a professional therapist. My best friend's a therapist. This is her business. But I'm wearing her sweatshirt from her therapy office. But yeah, lots of unofficial sessions with my friends and my husband that got me through and helped me understand that what I had to say mattered. And I never wanted anyone to feel that ever. And that's why when I sit down with an author and they have something to say, I want to make sure that I help them in the best way possible say those words. And it may or may not be with me, I may not be their editor. Like I've said before, I can't do romance, guys. I laugh at bedroom scenes. It's not happening. If you're going to come to me and you want me to work with you and you've got a romance, Troy is probably going to be your editor. Like I'll proof the thing, but I probably won't be editing the thing. I just think it's hilarious. There's only so many ways you can describe a male's member, and it just drives me crazy. But my point is that it doesn't mean that what they have to say in that book is something that shouldn't be said.
Right.
So I guess what I'm trying to say is that when you have words that want to pour themselves out of you, don't stop yourself from doing that. Don't stop the process. Whatever your process needs to be to get the words out, get them out. And that creative process, like we've said, sometimes can get stunted when you start to think too much about the commercial side of things. And I don't want you to not say the words because you're too afraid that they're not going to hit a certain audience, or that you're going to hurt some feelings, or that maybe only one person is going to read your book. I promise you, Troy and I are sitting here talking to each other every week and dropping this podcast on YouTube. Most of the time, we're just talking to each other and maybe one other guy. Hi, text vet Jed.
Yeah, we have a small audience, but I mean,
but it
here's the
doesn't
point,
matter.
though.
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. You will, first of all, you
No.
will eventually find your audience
Right.
most of the time. Second of all, probably the most important part of all of this is that artistic expression and freedom of speech are for everybody.
Right.
So the biggest issue with freedom of speech that we have right now is that each side of these various arguments seems to feel that what freedom of speech means is you can say anything you want as long as you don't disagree with me.
Right.
And I'm like, okay, here's the problem. The reason Karl Marx could publish all kinds of stuff about socialism and communism, and we can publish stuff about how great America is because we have freedom of speech. You can say that he's wrong, or you can be more on the socialist side of things and say that the American experiment has failed, and it's wrong. You can say any of those things because that's the beauty of freedom of speech. We have soldiers who have literally fought around the world for you to have the right to say whatever you want to say.
They're fighting for other countries as we speak for the very same right.
As we speak, for the exact same reason. Okay. So if you can say whatever you want, so can anyone else. If you can publish whatever you want, so can anyone else. We need to stop this thing of like, well, only one side is the right side. No, that's probably not true. Most of the time, the answer probably lies in the middle. There are some things, outliers, that are wrong. And I'm not talking about illegal materials like child pornography and all of that.
I'm not going to ever condone that stuff.
Because there are some things that are just, they cross
rules.
a line with the law. There are some other things that are the spirit of the law. You probably should not produce a murder manual that tells people how to get away with murder. For real, that's probably a bad idea for you to do. Not and you might end up society.
and you might be in the restricted section.
You might be in the restricted section. You might not be in the library, because that's the other thing libraries can do. There's
and
a lot of confusion around what banned books actually means. Banned books means that it's legally banned from a place. It doesn't mean that a library chooses not to carry that work.
Right.
That is different.
Right.
That is another thing that is a librarian's choice, to be discriminating about what they carry. But so, and you can disagree with their decisions. That's also part of your freedom of speech and part of that right. But the biggest things are, first of all, freedom of speech means you can say whatever you want. That doesn't mean you don't have consequences for saying those things.
And offense doesn't mean you're right or wrong either. When you're offended because your feelings were hurt, it doesn't mean you're right or wrong either. So you have to understand that about things. When your feelings are hurt, that you have to take the feelings out of it. Like,
Right. That doesn't mean that whatever thing that happened was morally wrong in some way.
Right, right, exactly. I
Your
mean,
morals are not the only morals. Your
right,
feelings are not the only feelings that are out there. And honestly, most of the time, if you're offended by something, then don't see or partake in that.
right.
Avoid that. That's okay.
Yeah.
But on a flip side, it might not be bad for you to experience some things that offend you.
You know what I love is that, and that was the other thing
It
I was
might
going to
not.
ask. That's the other thing I was going to bring up is that Ricky Gervais says specifically, he says that the reason he likes to poke the bear, he used different terms than this, but the reason he likes to poke the bear is because he likes to ask people why. So if they're offended or their feelings are hurt, instead of shying away from that, he asks them, why were you offended? Like,
Right.
and what that does, what that question does then is it causes them to be introspective and go and look at themselves in the mirror and wonder, what is it about this issue that
Mm-hmm.
maybe I can change? Sometimes if something is subjective, like, like the way you feel about politics or whatever, um, you need to come to understand that, like, it's more difficult to isolate yourself and become this noble, knight on a hill that's fighting for whatever cause you're fighting for, and and later find out that you're alone because you are unwilling to find or see that other people are on their own hills and you're all on this, you're all on the same hill, just scattered.
Mm-hmm.
It's really depressing to find that out. What's funny, and it comes with maturity and it comes with age, it comes with this ability to be able to let go
Hopefully.
of your own your own selfish qualities, but to be able to look at your friends and your family, like Troy and I, we come from we have totally different political thoughts and views. Not really, though,
Not
but
totally different,
not really. But what, like, you know
but
what I
not,
mean? Like
yeah.
sometimes we don't agree completely, but I can understand his perspective and he can understand mine. And it's kind of
Yeah.
like, I mean, I've had here's some really bold conversation that's probably going to open me up to some major criticism, but I gave a baby up for adoption when my husband and I were, before we got married. I was 19. Tucker, my daughter's dog, is in here. He's found a
Oh
bone
no.
and he's loud. Anyway,
It's
it's
okay.
so loud. Anyway, oh, what was I saying? Okay, I gave a baby up for adoption, and my husband and I, we were really young. Like, we were not ready to get married. In fact, at the time, and I always joke about this, William was not the knight in shining armor. Like, he was not the tall, dark, handsome lawyer that I was intending on marrying. So he was not who I pictured. So I was like, this is not the guy. And we gave that baby up for adoption, and it was that experience in and of itself was amazing, but I won't go into that more. But there is a reason that I went through that experience and how it shaped who I am and my opinions about certain things, like women's rights
Hmm.
and, rights to our body and so on and so forth. So I've had many conversations with people on both sides of this table and the abortion issue and everything. And I've come to understand certain perspectives when it comes to
Hmm.
this issue. And I still have a formed opinion about it, right? Like, I have a very strong formed opinion about it. Does that mean that when somebody says something, I'm going to be offended because they did maybe my feelings might be hurt if somebody personally attacks me about the decision I made? Maybe. But at the same time, I'm very comfortable in my decision and what I did. And I
Hmm.
know what I know I come from a very firm, both sides of the tracks perspective about why I'm in this lane, right? And so what my point is that when people come up with their perspectives, I can still have very civil conversations with people who might be on this other side of the.
Hmm.
Now, if you're going to come at me and start personally attacking me, I have no, like, I just don't have the
Right.
space in my head for you. Like,
Yeah.
you can go
Kind
talk
of a
to,
zero tolerance
yeah,
type
go
policy, because
yell
that
at the
becomes
wall.
a That becomes
Yeah.
a personal thing instead of about,
And not only that, just go yell at the wall if you're that angry. Like
yeah.
you're because
I
it's no better.
mean,
You're not gonna hit anything. But the thing is, and that's my point about books, is that if you're writing something and you feel like these are my words, these is my words, there's a book even, these is my words, and you want to get those words out there, then okay. But understand and know where you're standing, and then be okay with the conversations that might come at you, the reviews that might come at you. Like, I didn't like this book because it hit me here, or I didn't like this book because you didn't edit it well enough for me, or you used an interrobang, which, by the way, I have my reasons for not using those. But if you choose to use it, you used an interrobang, and how dare you use that in publication? Like, whatever. Like, you need to know, I used it for this reason, I'm good with it, this is my decision.
right.
And there's many times where Troy and I have had conversations about certain books where we've had authors say, I'm dying on this hill, this is going to stay. We have one client that's been with us for a very, very long time, and there are many reasons why he does what he does, and he's not changing it. And okay,
Yeah.
that's okay. And whether
Yeah.
Troy and I agree with him, we would do things differently if it were our book, but it's not our book. So there we go.
Right.
I want people to understand that the creative side of this is very much when you take charge of it and you own it and you say, this is mine, and you don't waver, but you know why you're not wavering, and be okay with that. And when you put that ownership hat on, oh my gosh, talk about a power trip.
Yeah.
You're now,
Exactly.
you know what I mean? Now you're in control. Now you're in control of what you're doing. And so when you meet with somebody like me, who's like, okay, well, like, here's what you've written. Like, let's talk about your marketing campaign and how you're going to make this work. And let's talk about how we're going to position you in the market. Okay, then I know I have a firm grasp because you've made this position and you've planted your flag, right? But if you come into this business wishy-washy and you're not sure, and you waver because your core reasons for writing and everything are shaky, you don't have a firm why, you don't really understand or grasp what's happening, and you don't want to learn, you're going to find yourself really struggling in this business. So I would say,
yeah,
wear the creative hat. Don't put on the business hat too soon. But when you're ready to put on the business hat, know why you stuck with what you stuck with when you wrote, and why you were creative, and why you creatively did it this way, and be okay with that.
Right. Absolutely.
That's what I would
say.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
So,
yeah, I mean, that's the main thing. This is your journey. You're the hero of your story. And, nobody can tell you how that story is going to turn out. Right? Nobody can tell you.
I think
so.
Till the day you die, and you're looking at whatever end of the road that you believe in, like whatever that looks like for you, nobody knows, right? We're all just kind of flying off the seat of our pants here. Nobody knows. So just, you do you.
Absolutely.
I don't think enough people give themselves credit for allowing themselves the permission to be creative in this space. I think that that's what AI is kind of ruining. I think too many people are trying too hard to pump things out too fast, and they are losing the real reason we write.
Right. Well, I think what it is we polluted the dream.
Yeah.
Right? Because the dream was for people to read and be touched by my words. Right. And we turned it into, I want people to to read and be touched by my words, so much so that I make a lot of money.
Yeah.
And so when that commercial hat comes on too soon, I think we're losing that artistic part of really telling my story, which is what it's why I emphasize so much about characters and character development and who they are and the human side of writing, And the whole reason is not because I'm opposed to AI at all, but because this is the fun and the reason we got into writing in the first place. And I didn't get into it to make money.
Right.
Making money, it became a necessity when I changed this from a hobby to a career. But it still didn't change my drive to create something artistic and create what I wanted to create. And I've been coming back to that a lot lately, especially as I explore AI and all the things that it can do and look at what I want it to do and free me up so that I can do the things that I love doing. And that's writing my own stories and helping you shape yours and
Yeah.
publish yours and get them out into the world. Two things I live for. The rest of it is all administration stuff that we have to do because that's the
It's
world that we live
business.
in.
Yeah. But
But at the same time, it's not the end of the road. And we need
no.
to not forget the art that we started with. So
Yeah.
maybe it's time to get back to your roots and do things the old way.
Yeah.
A couple of friends of
I
mine are
agree.
going through this themselves. They're going through transformations where they're literally talking about going back to the old way of doing things. And it's not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing at all.
No,
So,
I even had one client who told me, he says, I type for a living.
mhm.
Because he's so technology, like he hates it. It hates him. Like technology rejects my client.
Mhm.
And like, so he's like, I type for a living. He's like, I have a typewriter. I'm like, you do? And he's
Yeah.
like, I do. I'm like, wow.
Yeah.
But not reading those words. He's gonna have to figure out how to scan those suckers in. I've had to do that too, by the way.
Mhm.
It's always fun. But anyway, I hope this is helpful, and I hope this has been like kind of I guess inspiring. I wanted people to understand that their words are important, that the right to say those words is a very, I mean, it's the very core of our American life, why we're here,
Mhm.
but also to not be offended, and not to be afraid to be offended, not afraid to be offensive, and not be afraid to be offended. Like, it's okay.
Mm.
And when you find yourself in those situations where your feelings are hurt, ask yourself why, and then maybe explore those, and maybe it'll make a good story, and
Yep.
or the characters need to be hurt. Troy's always saying, don't be afraid to hurt your characters.
Yeah. Beat them up.
Beat them up.
See what
Beat them up.
happens.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
yeah, I totally agree. I mean, and this coming from the business girl, at this point, I'm going to go ahead and give that "you were right" to Troy, because he deserves it, because it's very true. You should be wearing that creative hat
Yeah.
a little longer than you think you should be. And don't take it off too soon. But anyway, I hope that you guys have enjoyed this. Next week, hopefully we'll have Angela Hoy from the
Yes.
Writer's Life. I
Writers
was reading
Weekly.
Writers Weekly. Thank you. I was reading some of her articles today, and oh my gosh, I cannot wait to talk to her about some of these. Because yeah, one of them was Reedsy, and some of the things that Reedsy's pulling right now. Oh my gosh, my brain just wanted to like explode. Talk about stomping on people's copyright. But anyway, so we'll talk about that kind of stuff with her later. But anyway, don't forget to like, subscribe, follow. It doesn't cost anything to subscribe. I think that people think that it does. I got asked the other day, does it cost anything to no, it doesn't cost anything to subscribe. When you
Yeah, you just hit a
subscribe,
button.
it's a button. And what it does is it tells the algorithm, I want to listen more to these guys when we say things that, and it'll just give you a notification when we're dropping a new podcast, which we drop every Saturday. So, and if you guys want to hear something specific from us, I keep saying this, but nobody ever hits us up. TextVed Jab hit us up one time. We hit his topic and it was great. And so far, crickets. Listen, the two of you that are listening to me right now, if you are still here and listening to us, damn it, give us a topic.
Give us some more topics.
Yeah, we're happy to hit it. But anyway, so yeah, we'll talk to you guys all next week. We hope you have a great week, and remember to keep writing, read more, stay weird. See you guys.
Yep. Thanks, guys.